ask I'd like to share the times with Deputy Michael McCarthy and Deputy Jim Daly as well.
Come on.
Thank you. 5 minutes each. Could you notify me when I have 1 minute left, please?
Certainly.
Thank you. Deputy Flanagan has warned against the point, but it is crucial to debate the economic difficulties of the country at the moment. Anybody that attended a rural school knew what an abacus was, and if there was more on one side than there was on the other, well then things weren't right. Unfortunately, is irrevocably connected to the amendment and this overall issue. Yes, rural schools have been faced with reductions in resources, let's call it as it is, and teachers, but they have also benefited in ways which larger schools have not. For example, smaller schools enjoy a significantly lower pupil-teacher ratio than the larger schools do. They experience a 28-to-1 on average. I, for one, went to a school where we had 44 pupils per class back in the 80s. We've got it down to 28-to-1 at the moment, and I think it's the benefit of the people of the country, to the education of everybody, that we keep it at that number and strive, on average, to lower it. I know that reductions in some rural areas have been disheartening, but the current economic climate does not lend itself to continuing in the same fashion as before. And I'd like to compliment the Minister on his speech tonight, as he highlights in an articulate manner the argument for the Department of Education taking the steps that it has, with a view to giving an education to every member of society in an equal manner, in an equal fashion. And some of the opposition spokespeople there have made very worthwhile comments in relation to protecting education in rural areas, but also the need for education as one of the pathways to recovery for our country. To reinforce this point, out of the 3,100 primary schools nationally, approximately 32 small schools will lose a teacher as a consequence of the budget, measuring related to small schools. These 32 schools account for just 1%, and that's 1% that I'd prefer not to have to affect. Myself, the Labour Party and this government as a whole are committed to rural schools and their importance to communities across Ireland. We need to look at rural schools with a five-prong approach. You need to look at them from a geographical, from a parish, from a sporting, from a transport and from an expenditure purpose. And within 5 minutes I can't elaborate on that, but to the people of Kerry, I have spoken to them at length at small meetings throughout. I've gone to the schools, I've met with the parents, I've met with the boards of management. And it is to the benefit of society that if everybody gets a good education. Some people told me that they had the benefit of being in a small classroom with an excellent teacher for a number of years. However, the corollary of that was also possible, and people told me that was to the detriment. I'd like to see a situation whereby everybody is entitled to a good standard of education. And I tell no lie when I stand in the Dáil here and give an example of a parent that contacted me and said that their son was the only boy in a school with 14 pupils, and they felt that this wasn't a healthy situation. However, they also felt that they couldn't remove the student from that school, as the other parents felt that the ratio would have been dropped to a point where they would jeopardize the entire school. Numerous difficult and regrettable decisions have been made, and at times they have cost more than they are worth. But this budget is about trying to regain the sovereignty of the country. I have experienced public meetings, I've experienced budgets, and nothing that we are doing is for the purpose of being popular at all. And I can honestly say that I'm making every effort in this country to help us to regain our own sovereignty, to get our country back to a place where we can reduce we can reduce the pupil-teacher ratio for everybody, where we can have better teachers, where we can have people looking forward to the future of the country. It is unparalleled time. I don't think that this is a recession. I think this is a crisis. When you've lost the independence of your country, you have great problems. Just while I have an opportunity, I would like to highlight something to the House as well. While I am against this amendment, I would like to bring attention to an important matter involving rural school transport in my constituency. It is in respect of the children of Abbeydorney and Ardfert who will be attending Causeway Comprehensive School in September. The 18 children who will be newly attending Causeway have been told that they will not be provided with school transport. They have been told that there is no room for them in the coming school year. Many of these 18 students already have siblings who attend Causeway and are on the bus and who are accommodated by Bus Éireann. It is expected that this issue in rural schools and transport will prevail for a prolonged period of time. However, the schools in Tralee thereafter have told the parents that as the primary schools are not feeding schools for the larger schools in the Tralee area that their pupils are not adequately considered for those schools. So we are left in a limbo situation which was adequately sourced by Bus Éireann. Most of the pupils are living over 4.8 kilometres away from that, and I'm going to bring this back to the department again as something, because I don't think it's acceptable for 2 kids from the one family to be getting on the bus and then the parent to have to go back and to find a school and then bring a kid to that school as well. There are numerous complexities within rural schools and rural transport at the moment, and I think that we as a government and we as backbenchers will receive any criticism, but also we'd like to have some constructive help with how we're going to solve this.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you very much.